Welcome in, everybody, to the Landry Football Podcast Network. It is ACC football and beyond as we take a look at Week 6 in college football. Some interesting matchups, not a lot of them, though. Florida State, NC State kind of leads the way of an intriguing matchup. They're going to be getting it on in Carter Finley. We always talk Notre Dame in this segment. I think Notre Dame playing BYU. That's in Vegas, by the way. That's going to be Saturday night. An intriguing game. Look at Notre Dame's schedule the rest of the way. We'll kind of see how that plays out, how that might factor in this week. BYU, of course, been a good-looking team most of the year. How will 4-1? This would be a big win for them. They've looked a little bit better on tape. Louisville, Virginia is an intriguing game in a tough game for Scott Satterfield. You've got to be able to win. The injury to the starting quarterback is a problem. No doubt may save him and get him another year, but it's certainly getting hot over there for him. For Virginia, oh boy, Tony Elliott's already talking, kind of throwing his players under the bus. Brendan Armstrong's a talented guy, and they are just underachieving, not doing a very good job. Army, Wake Forest, an interesting matchup. Wake wants to throw it around and run that slow mesh read option. And Army, you know what they do, running the option. That's going to be on ESPN3 at 6:30. Then we've got Clemson, Boston College. Oh, that's much of nothing there, as Clemson can kind of run away with it. How about Miami, North Carolina, though? Intriguing. 2-2, Miami. Do you realize North Carolina was 4-1? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. The offense continues to be amazing. As good as their defense is bad, can Miami figure things out, or they get further problems? Pitt, what a disappointing loss to Georgia Tech. Virginia Tech at home, and then Georgia Tech at Duke in Bobby Dodd. That's a look at the schedule. We'll get into some of the matchups here. A reminder that we go into even further detail, further inside the film room, matchups from a coaching and scouting perspective over at LandryFootball.com. So make sure that you take advantage of the football season sale. Try it out for a month, whatever is your pleasure. College football, NFL, we break the game down. We provide so much information and analysis that you can't get anywhere else. There are a lot of people that write about college football, but the backgrounds, look at it, who's been a coach, who's been a scout, who's doing that work now. You don't really find anybody else doing it. So we're really proud of what we're doing. Check out LandryFootball.com. We'd also like for ask you to subscribe, like, and share ACC Football and Beyond, this podcast. That'll tell us whether you like these type of shows, whether you want them structured differently. Subscribe, like, and share ACC Football and Beyond. Also, the Landry Football Podcast Network. Subscribe, like, and share that. It's free. Go ahead and do that. That way you get all of the football podcasts, college, NFL. We've got it for you. If you want to watch us do these college shows, you can subscribe, like, and share Off the Hook Sports YouTube channel. So Florida State's at NC State, as I mentioned, in Carter Finley. The Seminoles, and watching them and studying them, they need to get the running game going. They struggled on the ground in that loss to Wake Forest last week, and that was pivotal. Running the football more effectively could have maybe limited the possessions for Wake on offense and maybe broke the rhythm of their game. But they had 112 yards, the lowest of the season, and that was, again, really a problem. Now, NC State has a really good run defense, but they're going to have to stay committed to the run. If they can't do that, it's a problem. Now, if they can get the running game going, this leads to the passing game, which has been solid and steady, but they work it off the play action. They can manipulate coverages when they run it. So the key to this game is Florida State's ability to run the football, be patient on offense. If you run it, stay patient, some big plays will come. Very often fans get frustrated. Why are they running the football? They're getting no yards. Why are they running the football? When you run the football, it has a positive effect. If you're committed to running it and the defense that's facing you knows that you're going to run it, it's going to open up things in the passing game. Oftentimes you hear this, running it on this time, and then they throw it. You see, throw the damn ball. Well, what you're not understanding is running the football gets numbers in the box. It creates opening and coverage so that the passing game can work. Had they thrown the football when you wanted them to throw it, you'd be throwing it into coverage and it'd be a turnover. And the passing game sucks. The passing game sucks because the running game doesn't work. There's probably the biggest misunderstanding in football by fans is how the running game affects the passing game affects the running game, how the entire offense affects the defense, how the defense affects the offense, how both the offense and defense affect special teams. All of that is like a 3-link chain that is unbreakable. There, and yet most people think, well, we got this great offense now we only fix the defense and do that. It's never going to happen that way. If you don't have complementary styles in all three facets, you're going to be a unlinked chain that's just going to be waving out there, and you're going to be really inconsistent, and there's going to be a low ceiling to how good you can get. Thought the Florida State pass rush has been good. The pass defense hasn't been bad, and this NC State offense hasn't been consistent, particularly in the passing game. Can NC State's run defense continue to run it? Now, Clemson was able to pound and pound and pound last week, and they got a 30-20 win. It was the key to their win over NC State. So, again, the importance of establishing the running game for FSU is important here. It ran a season-high 38 times at Clemson for 145 yards. That's the most the Wolfpack allowed all year long because Clemson stayed committed to it. And again, FSU was held under 140 against LSU and Wake Forest. So we'll see if Florida State can run it well enough and stay committed long enough to allow the pass game to get going. The NC State offense hasn't been nearly as good as I thought it could be and should be. It hadn't been real explosive. It's a pretty decent system. There's not a bunch of turnovers. They've got 7 turnovers and spread out over 5 games, and the defense takes care of the rest. To me, it's one of the better looking style all-around teams NC State has, and I think they're the second best all-around team overall in the ACC. But the offense, not nearly as good as, say, Wake Forest's. Florida State will get a good performance out of Jordan Travis, but it needs to run well. That's going to be the key. Got some thoughts on a pick here and where this game might end up over at LandryFootball.com, so make sure that you check that out. Notre Dame is at BYU. Again, this game is in Vegas. BYU, the ground game has been fine. It hasn't been amazing since rolling on USF, which is not very good. The passing game has been strong. The offense has been working, but this is where BYU needs to step up. They lost that game 41-20 to Oregon. That might be the best team in the Pac, one of the best teams in the Pac-12, and maybe the best. Don't be concerned about the lackluster performances necessarily against Wyoming and Utah State. The defensive line will hang in against Notre Dame's run game, and the offensive line should hold up and just get enough out of the running game. BYU doesn't turn the ball over. The secondary has been terrific. Notre Dame's offense is really nothing to worry about. The Irish are not going to run the football on BYU like they did against North Carolina. And Notre Dame has generated one more turnover this season than you have. So I wonder, again, the line of scrimmage, how this is going to play out. Now, BYU's, again, line of scrimmage has been very effective. But the run defense hadn't been consistent for BYU. The pass rush has not been dynamic. The talent depth is there. The size isn't an issue, but the line has been a little bit of a hit or miss. So can Notre Dame catch him there? The offensive front personnel-wise is among the best BYU's had in years. But the pass protection is just okay. So can Notre Dame get some penetration in the pass rush? And the running game is not great, despite the fact that it looked good against Wyoming and South Florida. So Notre Dame's defensive front has picked it up a little bit. Wasn't bad against Ohio State. It's a little bit better. Jaron Hall gives BYU a bit of an edge here. Notre Dame is a little better than it was the first 2 weeks. Drew Pine is starting to get things moving. Throwing it about 70%. Can they work the ball downfield against this BYU secondary that's been pretty good? So it's going to be a fun game. It may not be big in terms of neither one of these teams are a real threat, even if they were to run the table to go to a nice bowl game, but they're good teams, and it's a fun game. And this is the type of game that's going to be fun when we go to a 12-team playoff, because there's still a possibility for both of these teams, in a 12-team set. BYU needs this. They got Arkansas up next. They win impressively. If they take down the Hogs, look, they could be 11-1. I mean, this is very possible. They don't look like an 11-1 team, but their schedule can possibly allow that. And it's this week and next week that are going to determine it. Well, they're going to get it done. Will Jaron Hall make enough plays in this game? We've got some further thoughts for you at LandryFootball.com on this. Louisville, Virginia. Louisville, the passing game isn't good enough, and the explosiveness is missing from the run game. But look, you got to find a way to win this game. Virginia is awful on offense. Tony Elliott is not doing anything to help this team. I know it's a rebuild, but this is not a disaster. You've got a good quarterback at Virginia, and they're not playing well. The Cavs offense is a shadow of its 2021 self. No consistency, nothing in the passing game, and they're the least efficient passing attack in the ACC. Too many turnovers, and the line is struggling. Louisville's not playing well. They're a disappointment, but their pass rush is pretty good. They're going to eat up Virginia offensive line. When Virginia can throw it effectively, they can have success. They're 2-0 when throwing for over 202 yards. They're 0-3 when hitting the mark or going under. Boston College isn't doing anything either. He hit 86% of his passes for over 300 yards in the win over Louisville. Florida State hit 70%. Can Brendan Armstrong and the Virginia offense start to hit the easy throws? If I were looking, as I look deeper into this game, the one strength that I see is Louisville's pass rush. It could be the difference in the game, but this Louisville offense right now may not be good enough. This is a game, a desperation game. Louisville really cannot afford to lose a game like this for Scott Satterfield. Virginia is obviously in the first-year head coach, but it is a real tough start. And this is going to be, I think, a tough tenure for Tony Elliott, who I think is not as good a coach as maybe a lot of the media thinks. And this is a tough job to recruit to. And I think while there's some holes, I think there's a playmaker at quarterback, and I don't think they're doing anything to help them. You're not coaching Clemson's talent anymore, Tony. You got to be more creative, and they're not getting enough out of this. So check out this game, and what is an intriguing game for the bottom of the barrel look in the ACC. This is intriguing. Army-Wake Forest is intriguing. That's in Winston-Salem. Why? Well, look at the contrast in styles. Army, the running game still works. They've got a slew of problems on the other side of the ball defensively. The Army's offense will control the football. So you know what's coming, right? You got Army who can run it. They're going to run it against this Wake defense and keep the ball away from Wake Forest offense, because Army can't stop Wake's offense. So Wake Forest run defense is okay, but it hadn't found anything like this. So it's Wake is having turnover problems. Don't think that can happen in this game. More likely happen in this game, I should say. But if it does, oh boy, you don't want to waste a possession, because you may not get it back for another 6 or 8 minutes. This is going to be a fun game. This could be, if you look at it, it could be a high. People think, well, it's a low-scoring game. No, I think there could be a lot of points. Now, 2021, you remember, it was 70-56. Not basketball season, 70-56 in the Wake Forest win. It was fun. It's going to be fun in different ways. If you remember, Army ran for like 400-plus yards and 5 scores, and Wake Forest threw for 450 yards and 5 touchdowns and ran for 1 more. It was a wild game. Completely different looking. but offensive oriented because both these defenses be bad. So look for this one to be a lot of fun. Clemson, BC, do we need to spend a lot of time on it? Yeah, we need to at least tell you what's going on. DJU's playing well. Not as many drop passes as there were like against Georgia Tech. And no, they weren't sharp against Louisiana Tech. They've gotten better. They're good in third down conversion. Boston College is not. Boston College does not look like Boston College. No running game whatsoever. They're not connecting on third down. The Clemson defensive line is not dominating, but they have the ability more than any other high-level recruiting program to develop their team by playing a lot of people than anybody. Clemson plays more people every year than anybody, and it's because they've got a lot of young talent that they can play because they've got a weak schedule. If you look at BC, they've got a quarterback in Phil Jurkovec. But do you look at the quarterbacks in this league? If you think about the quarterbacks in the ACC, so many talented guys. Not many of them are playing well. Phil Jurkovec, I thought, did a pretty good job against Louisville in that 34-33 win. Zay Flowers is probably going to be as good as any offensive weapon on the field in this game, Clemson. They just don't have enough of them. Clemson's pass defense was ripped by Sam Hartman. Can BC do it? No, not the same way. The defense is not very good. This will be a decisive win by Clemson. But how much? We got more details for you on this game. Miami, North Carolina. Oh, boy. Intriguing one, right? It's in Miami Gardens and Hard Rock Stadium. The offense for North Carolina is amazing. They're averaging 507 yards per game. Drake May is really, really good. He's better than Sam Howell, and I like Sam Howell. He's the best freshman in the country. This Hurricane pass defense gave up a slew of yards. We know what happened against Middle Tennessee. Defense maybe took a night off, and we're licking their wounds in the A&M game. As good as Tyler Van Dyke's talent is, the downfield passing game's not there. But this North Carolina defense can't stop anybody. They are as bad as North Carolina's offense is good. The only two teams in the ACC are allowing more than 400 yards per game. Georgia Tech has given up 412, and then North Carolina. It's given up 451. They're able to get away with it because their offense is so strong. But it's not like the defense is getting ripped off by great teams. They're getting blown out by average offenses. Appalachian State can run. Notre Dame's offense that we talked about has struggled, went wild on them. Virginia Tech's miserable, and I mean miserable looking offense, came up with 275 yards, and it didn't move the needle. Miami has had 2 weeks to prepare here. This is a big game for Mario. You're at home. You can't move the football against North Carolina, you're in trouble. If you can't get a few stops defensively, at least, you're going to be in trouble. They should be able to run it, control the game, keep Tyler Van Dyke out of harm's way, and control this game at the line of scrimmage. Yes, North Carolina is going to get some points, but there should be a lot of points here on both sides. Big one for Miami. Really big one. They're 2-2. North Carolina's 4-1. Miami's at home. You're coming off that Middle Tennessee State debacle. If you're going to give up points to North Carolina, I get it. But if you can't score points and limit their offensive possessions, if you're Miami, it's going to get uglier and uglier. A lot of work there left to do. Pitt at Virginia Tech. Speaking of a lot of work, Virginia Tech has a lot. And Georgia Tech came up with a win over Pitt. It's been a rough ride for Virginia Tech. The offense looks awful. I mentioned except against North Carolina's defense. The parts are better. Grant Wells is not an awful quarterback, and there's a good rotation of runners, but they're not clicking. Up front, they're not clicking. The defense is good enough to keep things interesting. It's really good on third downs. It can hold up fairly well against the run. Pass protection. Look, you got to slow down that Pitt pass rush, and I think Virginia Tech can do that effectively. But can they score enough points? Pitt, what are you doing? You're a pretty good team. You may not have been all complete to this point. No way you lose to Georgia Tech. turnovers been a problem. You got to play a cleaner game. I think Pitt responds, but I didn't think they'd lose to Georgia Tech. So we'll see if they can. Doing it twice is a different story, but we'll see. Georgia Tech is at Duke. Excuse me. Duke's at Georgia Tech. Duke is 4-1, in case anybody knew it. Lost to Kansas 35-27. Mike Elko has kind of boosted up that offensive balance. They don't give the ball away. They're a smart team. I know Duke's smart. They think that, no, but really they play smart football. They don't turn it away. They don't put the ball in harm's way. They get the ball out of the quarterback hands. They get hands very quickly. They get the ball to the backs in space. They don't allow plays in the backfield. That's what they're doing. That's how they're 4-1. They haven't played the toughest schedule, but they've played functionally well. The Georgia Tech got the win last week. The defense did a pretty good job getting behind the line of scrimmage. Duke may be pretty good at keeping defenses from being disruptive, but Georgia Tech has to hurry things up a little bit more under Brent Key. That's going to try to, increase the tempo and get the ball to the playmakers a little bit more, maybe run the quarterback a little bit more. Georgia Tech was +3 in the turnover margin against Pitt, or else they don't pull that game out. Duke doesn't turn it over. So in a game where Duke is not as good as Pitt, but Duke will play a cleaner game, they'll probably win this game. Got more thoughts on this over at LandryFootball.com. So a reminder to check out LandryFootball.com. Check out our football season sale. Try it out for a month, whatever is your pleasure. Check that out. Players, teams, coaches, schemes, game evaluations, pre and post. We got it all for you at LandryFootball.com. So check that out today. A reminder to subscribe, like, and share ACC Football and Beyond. The Landry Football Podcast Network as well. Subscribe, like, and share that, as well as Off the Hook Sports YouTube channel. We're excited to be here all the time. We want to get your feedback and your involvement. Appreciate you joining us. Enjoy the games. We'll be back to wrap it up in the early part of next week. So long, everybody. Enjoy the games.